question is, does your ops team, does your operation teams knows the business better than the leadership does? Because this question arises because operation teams are the people who works closely where the things are actually happening, either it succeed or fail. They know the customer experiences and they know why some processes fail silently. Yet their insights rarely reach to a decision table. So, do you think there lies a clear gap between what's happening on the ground and the decisions making at the top? And it somehow creates a knowledge imbalance. So, the question arises, why is operational intelligence is always looked at as a tactical decision rather than a strategic one? So, if you could share some light, your experiences and perspective, do you believe your operations team have insights that sometimes leadership misses, and how do you make sure that they reach to a strategic table? So, maybe we could begin with you.
There's no direct answer to that. So there are different types of operations people, different types of leaders. Many leaders who are very hands-on. And I have seen leaders who have grown from the down, like the guy who has started his career as a management trainee in that organization and then grew up to the leadership level today. He or she understands the business better rather than the person coming directly on the top and then trying to show that I know the business better than the operations team. Of course, there are two compartments in this. One, you mentioned about the operational kind of an activities aspects. Second is the strategic activities. So the leader's perspective or the leader's requirement, expectation from the leader is not to look at the granular or the micro level of what is happening on the ground, but look at the broader picture, the strategic picture, or look at the different insights which are coming out from the operations. Does that mean that he or she doesn't need to know the operations? No. At the broader level, the person needs to know the operation, how it is happening. For example, I'll just give an example. Those who are from pharma or from the manufacturing, manage a sales team, they would always come, my product is not selling because my price is higher than the competitor. So if the leader doesn't know what is the actual reason, there may be various other reasons, but the sales team or the marketing team would always impose, and that's the easier way out. To so reduce the cost, I'll be able to sell. That may not be the criteria for not my product getting sold in the markets. If leader knows what is exactly happening on the market, he or she may look at the other perspectives for which the broader arena may be our penetration or the priority what I am giving in the market may be different. Various other things. The dealer management, distribution management is not up to the mark. That's the reason probably I'm not been able to sell it. But if the leader has the superficial knowledge on the market, he get succumb to that particular demand of the sales team and tries to reduce the cost. And then again, there is a boomerang effect. So how long would you continue? You cannot continue. You have to have a margin. You are not doing business for charity, right? So that's one example. Second example, even in the manufacturing side also, many a times the manufacturing heads, they would come and they would say, my manufacturing is less because of I need to bring that technology, those technology, in spite of having probably a kind of a technology which is required at that point of time. So my feeling or my take on that is that whomsoever is the leader has to have the understanding of the know-how of the business. Not maybe from at the very detailed granular level, but at the level which at the level from the broader perspective how it happens, and he needs to work in tandem together with the operations team or the other sales team rather than just sitting on the hot chair. So it's a collaborative efforts. There is no two separate platform. One is the leader, another is all. It's an integrated part of any organization. So if that integration happens, probably the question doesn't arise who knows better, operation team knows
So, like,
better or the
how
leader knows.
leaders ensure that there is a proper integration between the execution and the strategic level decisions, and how they make sure that there is a bottom up information, not only the downward level information, and there's no information asymmetry that's happening and causing knowledge imbalance. How leaders.
I can talk about a few examples where a lot of large companies nowadays and the leaders are adopting to this is to have some sort of a control center at the tip of their finger on what's happening on the ground day-to-day activity, either through the dashboard or something on the mobile application. First thing you see, it gives you a pop-up. So that trend is quite happening, and most of the large organizations are now having these kind of applications for the leaders who can see what's happening around it. Now, but with a caveat, of course, I'll go back to what he said. Every leader is different. Somebody wants to believe in that. Somebody wants to believe but don't want to agree, and therefore the kind of how do you deal with the ops team then to find some real actionable to make it work for the larger cause of the organization. Those things are very people sort of dependent, but from a technology perspective, these concepts of command centers in your mobile phone is pretty rampant nowadays, because data is there. Data is the king, everybody now understands, and therefore that and the digital technologies are there to enable this as well, right? So all of that is happening. The only caveat, if I can just use that funny anecdote where you mentioned, right, I completely agree with you that leaders who know their subject can then recognize that or can relay with that much better and all. I do want to have one small caveat, because you said this is a bold thing, and I go back on this movie Kung Fu Panda. I sometimes feel, and sometimes I try to relate that in the corporate, scenarios as well. Multiple examples that I know of, where the leaders who actually know the subject superbly well, to the extent of every hook and corner. Sometimes I have seen, in fact, most of the times I have seen, they do not turn out to be a very good leader. The same example of Tai Long versus Kung Fu Panda in my mind, because I think you miss the humility. You miss the humility of asking somebody. You miss the humility of somebody else might have the data which I might be missing on. You think I'm super skilled, therefore I do not try to listen, and then it becomes a little bit of a challenge, right? So that's the Tai Long versus Kung Fu Panda example that if I can cite. But fully with you, I mean, it completely depends on people. I've seen a lot of leaders who appreciate that, a lot of leaders who don't want to appreciate that, right? So a lot depends on that.
I'll add on. This is a topic which I really live on every day. About 12 and a half years in absolute manufacturing, with the change management coming in, where the strategy is presumed to be defined in a corner offices, and people at down the level at your manufacturing will say that, oh, they are defining fantasies, which doesn't work. All right. Strategy without execution is always going to be a chaos. Whereas the person who decides says that, what are they doing? It's not to a strategy what we think. All right. It's always going to be a balance between these two. Both are right. The person who is closer to the operations is the one who is highly intelligent of what is happening around. He knows what are the nuances. The person who sits on top is the one who understands where the direction is going. Both has to be synced together. If there is no sync, there's always going to be a kind of a noise which says that this is working, this is not working. There's always going to be a pushback. As a leader, when you are dealing with this kind of a situation, it's always a person has to break the hierarchy. I mean to say, what do you mean by breaking the hierarchy is that raise the voice and tell the people who are there sitting in the corner offices, who become hippo ears, who doesn't hear, highly paid doesn't hear, let them hear what is the noises. There should be a seamless data going up. This is what's working. This is the need of the hour. All right. He doesn't know the operational challenges, but he should be made aware of the operational challenges. The person who is sitting on the top should be emotionally connected to what is really happening at the environment, because the reality, whatever he decides, is going to happen at the ground, and they are the one who will make it happen. And if he is defining strategies which doesn't work, then it is only going to be fantasy stories, fairy tale stories, yes, which most of us do, and I do it, and my team makes me aware that I'm not coming to the realities. So the balance is what? How do you bridge? Breaking the hierarchy, shouting out, making them to be a part of the decision making is the smartest way of doing it. You understand them. They will tell you what is working, what is not working. You tell them. As a leader, I'll be telling them what is the strategy I want, so that I could up the game. I don't want to play the same on the same level field. I have to have a strategy which will be completely different from the market. So how do I do it? I have to bring them up. I have to come down. So the balance tilts. It comes on a plain valley where you will build a solid product. If this is going to happen, then it's always going to be a win-win for both. If it's not, it is always going to be finding a buck on the other side.